The grand hall of the Erickson Empire shined with silver lights. The walls were made of glowing crystal, and the floor reflected the colors of the galaxy outside. Hundreds of alien ministers stood in long rows waiting for the Queen to speak. Every creature in that hall respected her. Queen Vereen was known for her wisdom, her calm voice, and her strong rule. She had brought peace between her people and the humans of Earth after many long years of tension. Among the guard standing near the great pillars was a human soldier named Rian. He was not tall or strong like the alien warriors, but his eyes showed discipline and courage. He had been trained to protect the Queen and to follow orders without question. The aliens sometimes looked down on the humans, but Queen Vereen had always treated them as equals. Ryan respected her more than anyone else. The hall was filled with a deep humming sound as the council meeting began. Queen Vereen rose from her throne, her robe flowing like silver smoke. She raised her hands and spoke about a new plan for peace, a plan that would join the technologies of both races. The crowd listened carefully. Her words carried power, and even the air seemed to listen. But as she spoke, her voice started to shake. Her hands trembled slightly. The ministers leaned forward, confused. Then, without warning, the Queen staggered. Her eyes rolled back and her body went limp. She collapsed in front of everyone. A loud cry echoed across the hall. "Protect the Queen!" shouted the guards. The alien warriors rushed forward, forming a circle around her. The ministers began to argue and panic. The sound of fear filled the hall. Ryan felt his heart race as he ran toward the throne. He saw the Queen lying on the shining floor, her face pale and her body still. The alien physicians arrived quickly, their glowing scanners hovering over her body. They checked her pulse, her breathing, her energy field. Their strange devices blinked with colored lights, but their faces showed only confusion. "She is alive," one of them said, "but we cannot find the cause." The council began to whisper among themselves. Some of them turned toward the human guards with suspicion. Ryan could feel their eyes on him. One alien minister stepped forward and said in a cold voice, "Perhaps this is the result of human contamination. We allowed them into our palace, and now our Queen suffers." The hall fell silent. Ryan clenched his fists but said nothing. He was only a guard, and speaking out could be seen as disrespect. Still, his eyes stayed fixed on the Queen. He noticed something small, something the others had missed. Before she had fallen, the Queen had turned her head toward the human section of the hall. Her eyes had shown not anger, but fear mixed with confusion. It was as if she had seen something that no one else could. The alien physicians carried the Queen to her private chamber, surrounded by guards. The council members continued to argue, blaming humans or secret diseases. The noise filled the hall, but Ryan stayed silent, lost in thought. He replayed the moment again and again in his mind. The Queen had been fine moments before. What had changed so suddenly? After the crowd left, Rian walked toward the throne. The floor where she had fallen was still faintly glowing. He knelt down and placed his hand over it. The air felt strange, as if there had been a wave of invisible energy that had passed through. It was not something he could see, but he could feel it in the air. Later that night, the palace grew quiet. The stars outside the great windows looked calm and distant. Ryan stood guard outside the Queen's chamber. Inside, alien healers were trying to keep her alive. They said her body was stable, but she was not waking up. No poison, no attack, no weapon had been found. To them, it was a mystery. Rian stared at the security monitor beside him. It showed the recording of the moment when the Queen had fainted. He watched it again and again. This time he noticed a strange flicker in the energy sensors at the edge of the frame. It lasted for only 1 second, but it was there. It looked like a small burst of energy, almost invisible. He froze. He had seen that kind of energy pattern before, but not here. It was something from Earth. He opened a small hidden data file on his wrist device and compared the readings. The pattern matched a human brainwave frequency used in early communication experiments long ago. It was a signal designed to calm human minds, not harm them. But how could such a frequency appear in the Queen's palace during a council meeting? Rian's thoughts raced. If that wave came from human technology, someone could easily use it as proof to accuse his kind of treason. But his instincts told him something else. The Queen had not been attacked by humans. There was something deeper behind this. He needed help to understand the readings, so during his short break he went down to the lower tech vaults where the palace engineers worked. The air there smelled of oil and hot metal. Old devices from both Earth and Arixa were kept in large rooms filled with wires and tools. He found Terran, an old alien engineer who had always treated him kindly. "Terran," Ryan said quietly, "I found something strange. During the Queen's collapse, an energy pulse went through the hall. It looks human, but it was too short to be natural." Terran raised one of his silver eyes and leaned closer to the data file. "Human frequency, you say? That is not easy to detect. Only someone with deep knowledge of both technologies could cause this. No alien device can mimic that exactly. Could it harm her?" Ryan asked. Terran shook his head slowly. "No, at that level it would not cause pain. It might do the opposite. It could even stabilize biological functions. But we are not sure how it affects her kind." Ryan felt a spark of hope mixed with fear. If the pulse did not harm her, then what made her faint? Could her body be reacting to something in the energy field? Was there a connection between her biology and human frequencies? He thanked Terran and returned to his post. The Queen still lay unconscious behind the shield. The palace lights dimmed for the night, but Ryan did not rest. He kept thinking about the signal, about the strange look in her eyes, about the faint glow on the floor. He decided to take a risk. If the human frequency helped her body stabilize, maybe he could test it. He had a small handheld emitter in his armor, a device used for medical checks. It could produce low-frequency waves. If he adjusted it carefully, he could send a very weak signal through the shield without being noticed. Ryan stood before the Queen's door, holding the device in his hand. He hesitated, knowing he could be punished if anyone found out. But his duty was to protect her, and his instincts told him this was the only way to help. He set the frequency to the same pattern as the pulse he had detected and activated it for just 1 second. The chamber lights flickered slightly. The monitor beside him showed a sudden rise in the Queen's heartbeat. Her pulse grew stronger for a moment, then settled. Ryan's breath caught in his throat. Something had changed. He quickly turned off the device and stood still. He did not yet understand what he had discovered, but he knew one thing. The Queen's fainting was not caused by poison or attack. It was something connected to humans, something hidden deep within her that no one else had seen. As he stood guard under the cold light of the palace, Ryan made a silent promise. He would find the truth, even if it meant breaking every rule. The next morning, the palace remained silent and tense. The guards stood at their posts without speaking. The air felt heavy with worry and fear. Everyone knew the Queen was still unconscious, and no one had found a clear reason for her sudden fall. Rumors spread fast among the ministers and soldiers. Some whispered that it was a human plot. Others believed it was a curse or a secret illness. Ryan had not slept at all. He had been at his station the entire night, watching the readings from the Queen's chamber. He could still see the small change that happened after he had sent the short frequency wave. Her heartbeat had grown stronger for a moment, and that gave him hope. But he could not speak about it. If he told anyone that he had interfered, he might be arrested or worse. The alien physician named Dren came out of the Queen's room, his long blue robe brushing against the crystal floor. He looked worried and tired. Rion saluted him respectfully and asked in a calm voice, "Is there any change, Doctor?" Dr. Dren shook his head. "Her vital signs are steady, but she is not waking up. Her energy levels are strange. We have tried every healing method we know. None of them are working. It is as if something inside her is resisting our treatment." Ryan nodded slowly. He wanted to ask if they had checked for energy interference, but he stayed quiet. The alien still looked at humans with suspicion. If he spoke too much, they might think he was hiding something. Later that day, Ryan went to the security control room. The guards inside were busy checking recordings from the previous day. He pretended to be helping, but was actually looking for the data from the moment the Queen fainted. He copied the readings from the energy sensors onto his personal data chip and left the room quietly. He went down again to the lower vaults where Terran worked. The old engineer was sitting at a table surrounded by glowing screens. He smiled when he saw Ryan. "You came back already. Did you find something more?" Ryan placed the data chip on the table. "Yes, there is something strange in these readings. Look at this line. It appears 1 second before the Queen falls. It matches the human frequency you mentioned yesterday." Terran adjusted his glasses and studied the data carefully. His fingers moved quickly over the screen. "You are right. The signal came from inside the hall itself. It was not an outside attack. It was transmitted from one of the council communication panels. Someone used palace technology to send this wave. That means it was planned, Ryan frowned. So someone inside the palace caused it. But why would anyone want to harm her with a signal that does not kill? Taran thought for a moment. Maybe it was not meant to harm her. Maybe it was meant to reveal something about her. There are people in the council who still believe humans are inferior. They fear the Queen's friendship with your kind. Perhaps they wanted to prove something. The words made Rian uneasy. He remembered how some of the ministers had looked at the Queen when she spoke about the new peace plan. Some faces had shown anger and distrust. Ryan decided to act. He went back to his post near the Queen's chamber. The room was quiet except for the soft sound of machines. The Queen was still lying on the bed, her breathing slow and even. Her skin had a pale glow, and her hair shimmered faintly under the light. He stood there for hours thinking about what Taran had said. The idea that someone had tried to expose or test the Queen made his blood run cold. He had to find out the truth. That night, when the palace lights dimmed, Ryan checked the monitors again. The readings from the Queen's body showed small energy spikes every few minutes. They were faint but real. He compared them with human biosignatures and found that the pattern matched the rhythm of a human heartbeat. The discovery left him speechless. He whispered to himself, "How can this be? She is not human." He remembered Taran's words. Maybe she was not entirely alien either. The thought seemed impossible, but the evidence was right in front of him. He decided to confirm it with a safe test. He took out his portable emitter again, this time adjusting it to an even lower level. He pointed it gently toward the Queen's bed and activated it for just 2 seconds. The pulse touched the edge of the energy shield and passed through. The monitors immediately reacted. The Queen's energy level rose, her heart rate became stronger, and her breathing deepened. Ryan's eyes widened. He stopped the device and stepped back. He had done it again. The human frequency had helped her, not harmed her. He knew now that there was something inside her that responded to human energy. It could not be a coincidence. The next morning, Dr. Drin entered the room again. He looked at the readings and frowned. Strange. Her energy levels are improving slightly. We did not change any treatment. I do not understand this, Rian said nothing. He only bowed and continued his duty. Inside his mind, a storm of questions was forming. If the Queen's body reacted to human frequencies, did that mean she carried human genes? Was it possible that her ancestors had mixed with humans long ago, or had someone hidden this truth from the Empire? Later, while the Queen still slept, Ryan visited Taran one more time. He showed him the updated readings. Taran's eyes widened when he saw them. These patterns are not from an Erickson body. You see this curve here? It is the same found in human bioenergy systems. I have never seen this in any alien before. So she carries human traits, Rian said quietly. Taran looked around and lowered his voice. If this is true, it explains everything. The alien healing fields do not match her mixed structure. That is why she is not waking up. Her body needs human energy to recover. But if the council finds out, they may not accept it. The royal family has always claimed to be pure Erickson. Ryan understood the danger at once. If this secret became known, it could cause political chaos. The ministers who hated humans would use it to weaken the Queen. The peace between both worlds could collapse. He clenched his jaw. We cannot let anyone find out yet. Not until she wakes up. Taran nodded in agreement. Be careful, Ryan. If they discover that you know, they will come after you. Ryan returned to his post, his mind filled with determination. He decided to protect the Queen's secret until he understood everything. He stayed awake all night again, keeping watch over her chamber. Every few hours, he sent a very small wave from his device to keep her energy stable. At dawn, something unexpected happened. The Queen's fingers moved slightly. Then her eyes flickered open for a brief second before closing again. It was the first sign of life since she had fainted. Ryan felt a surge of relief. The human energy was working. He wanted to shout in joy, but he stayed calm. He looked around to make sure no one saw what had happened. He knew that this was only the beginning. The Queen was not out of danger yet, and the truth behind her collapse was still hidden. As the first light of morning touched the palace walls, Ryan stood silently by her side. He had learned more in one night than the entire alien council. Somewhere deep inside, the Queen's blood was the key to the mystery. He did not know who had sent the original energy pulse, but he was sure of one thing. Someone wanted this secret to come out, and that meant the Queen's life was still in danger. Ryan swore to himself that he would uncover the truth before anyone else did. The peace between two worlds depended on it. The Queen's chamber was filled with quiet light from the rising sun. The crystal walls reflected golden shades that made the room look alive. The healers were still asleep in their chairs, tired from their long work. Ryan stood by the doorway, his eyes fixed on the Queen. He could see her chest moving gently with each breath. The small movement gave him hope. He had stayed awake all night again, watching her heartbeat on the monitor. The signals were stronger now. Each time he had sent the small human frequency wave, her body had responded positively. The pattern was clear. The Queen's system was linked somehow to human energy, but he still did not understand how that was possible. Ryan wanted to tell someone, but he knew that if the Council found out, the truth could destroy her. Many alien ministers already hated the peace treaty with Earth. If they discovered that their ruler carried human blood, they might try to remove her from the throne. The Queen had always worked to bring both species together, and this secret explained why she cared so deeply about unity. It also meant she was in more danger than anyone knew. When the sun rose higher, the doors of the chamber opened. 2 alien guards entered, followed by Dr. Dren. The physician checked the readings and froze when he saw the change. Her condition is improving. But this is impossible. We have done nothing different. Ryan stayed silent, pretending to look at the screens. Dren touched the Queen's hand gently, surprised by its warmth. He shook his head in disbelief. It is as if she is recovering on her own. Perhaps the great spirits are guiding her. The healers bowed their heads in respect, but Ryan knew that something more real was happening. He looked at the Queen's face, which seemed less pale than before. There was even a faint glow on her skin. That afternoon, a message came from the Royal Council. The ministers demanded an emergency meeting to discuss the Queen's health and the future of leadership. Ryan felt uneasy when he heard that. If the ministers believed she might die, they could try to choose a new ruler. That would give her enemies the chance they needed. He stayed at his post while the healers left for their break. The room was quiet again. He took a deep breath and decided to take one more risk. He activated his small emitter once more, sending a slightly longer human frequency wave. The light on the monitor brightened and the Queen's fingers twitched again. Then something happened that made his heart stop. The Queen's eyes slowly opened. She looked weak and confused, but she was awake. Ryan immediately turned off the emitter and stepped back. He did not want anyone to know what he had done. The Queen blinked several times and looked around. Her voice was soft and tired when she spoke. "Where am I?" "You are safe, my Queen," Ryan said, bowing deeply. "You fainted during the council meeting, but you are safe now." She looked at him for a moment as if trying to remember something. "How long have I been asleep?" "Almost 2 days," he replied quietly. The Queen closed her eyes for a moment. "I see. And the council?" "They are waiting for news about your recovery," Ryan said. "The palace has been under high alert since the incident." The Queen sat up slowly, holding her head. She seemed thoughtful. "I felt something strange before I lost consciousness." A wave of energy passed through the air. It was not alien energy, it felt different. Ryan hesitated, then spoke carefully. "Yes, my Queen. There was an energy pulse detected in the hall. It matched a human frequency, but it did not harm you. In fact, it seems to help you." The Queen looked at him with surprise. "You know this?" Ryan lowered his head. "I found it by chance while studying the security readings. I also discovered that your body responds positively to human frequency. I do not understand why, but it seems connected to you." The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then she sighed and looked away. "I had hoped this day would never come. You have a right to know, Ryan, since you saved my life." Ryan listened carefully as she spoke, her voice calm but full of truth. "Many generations ago, during the first contact between our species, my ancestors were part of a secret experiment. They wanted to create a bridge between Erickson and human biology, to end the sickness that had been killing our people. My great ancestor used human genetic material to strengthen the royal bloodline. It worked, our people survived, but the knowledge was buried to protect the royal family. No one in the Empire knows this, not even the Council." Ryan was stunned. The truth explained everything. Her fainting, the human energy response, and the strange pulse at the council meeting all made sense now. The Queen was not fully alien. She was part human. The Queen continued. "For many years, my body remained stable. But as I grew older, the alien energy fields used in the palace began to interfere with the human part of me. My system could not handle the conflict. When the energy pulse was triggered during the meeting, it awakened that imbalance. That is why I fell, Rion finally spoke. Then someone must have known your secret. The signal was not an accident. It was meant to expose or harm you. The Queen nodded slowly. That is what I fear. There are those among my council who still believe that humans are a threat to our purity. If they learn about my bloodline, they will call me unfit to rule. You must not speak of this to anyone, Rian. Promise me. I promise, my queen, Ryan said firmly. But you cannot face this danger alone. Someone tried to attack you from within the palace. We need to find out who it was. The queen smiled weakly. You are brave, Ryan. I can see why the human race survived so much hardship. I will trust you to help me find the truth. But we must act carefully. If we move too fast, they will know we are watching. Ryan bowed his head. I will protect you with my life. The queen looked at him with gratitude. And I will protect the peace we built together. That evening, the council met again in the main hall. Rumors spread quickly that the queen had awakened. The ministers looked both relieved and disappointed. Some had hoped to take power in her absence. The queen entered the hall slowly, supported by Ryan. She looked pale but strong enough to stand. The ministers bowed as she took her seat. She spoke calmly. My friends, the light of our unity still shines. I have faced a moment of weakness, but I have returned stronger. Let no one doubt the bond between our people. The ministers applauded politely, but Ryan could see distrust in a few faces, especially in Lord Verrill, one of the oldest and most powerful ministers. His golden eyes were cold and sharp. Rian noticed how he avoided looking at the queen directly. After the meeting, the queen whispered to Rian, Keep an eye on Lord Verrill. He has always opposed peace with Earth. If anyone knew my secret, it would be him. Ryan nodded. I will watch him closely. As they walked back through the palace corridors, Rian's mind was full of questions. Someone had tried to expose the queen's truth, and the plot had failed because of him. But he knew the danger was far from over. Whoever had done this would try again. That night, as the stars shone over the city of crystal towers, Ryan stood on the balcony outside the queen's chamber. He looked up at the twin moons of Arixa and made a silent vow. He would uncover the traitor, protect the queen, and defend the fragile peace between their worlds. He had seen the truth hidden inside her, and now he understood why humans and aliens were meant to stand together. The secret within the queen was not a weakness. It was the future of both worlds. Days passed quietly after the queen's recovery. The palace appeared calm, but under its bright walls fear and suspicion grew. Rumors spread among the servants and soldiers. Some said the queen had been poisoned, others said a spirit had cursed her. But Ryan and the queen knew the truth was far more dangerous. Someone inside the palace had tried to expose her secret. Ryan stayed close to the queen at all times. He observed every visitor, every servant, and every member of the council. He noticed small details others missed. Some ministers spoke kindly but avoided meeting her eyes. Some guards acted nervous when she passed. And above all, Lord Verrill behaved as if he was waiting for something to happen. Lord Verrill was one of the oldest members of the council. He had served the previous ruler and believed that humans should never have been allowed into Erickson lands. He had opposed every treaty with Earth. Now, with the queen growing weaker, Ryan believed that Verrill saw a chance to take power. One evening, as the queen rested in her private garden, Ryan approached her with quiet steps. The garden was filled with glowing flowers and floating light seeds that danced in the air. The queen was sitting on a crystal bench, looking at the stars above. She turned her head as Ryan approached. Your Majesty, he said softly, I have been watching Lord Verrill. He has been visiting the communication tower every night without official reason. He claims it is for council reports, but I do not trust him. The queen looked thoughtful. The tower connects our palace to every major world in the Empire. If he is using it secretly, he may be sending hidden messages. You must find out who he speaks to, Rian. I will handle it carefully, Rian promised. But if I am discovered, they may accuse me of spying. The queen placed her hand gently on his arm. You are already risking everything for me. Be cautious. The truth will protect you. That night, Ryan dressed in light armor and made his way to the communication tower. It stood at the far edge of the palace, tall and covered in silver mirrors that glowed faintly under the moonlight. The wind was cold and the air smelled like metal. He entered the tower quietly through a service passage that Taryn had shown him. Inside, the machinery hummed softly. Blue lights flickered on the walls. Ryan moved from shadow to shadow until he reached the upper level. There he saw Lord Verrill standing before a communication console. The noble's long robes shimmered in the light. His hands moved quickly over the controls, sending encrypted messages. Ryan listened carefully. The voice coming from the speaker was low and mechanical. It was an artificial intelligence link used for secure discussions. He heard Verrill's words clearly. The Queen's condition was not enough to end her rule. We must act soon. The energy signal failed to remove her. Prepare the clone! Ryan froze in shock. A clone! That meant they planned to replace the Queen with an imitation that lacked the human traits. The plan was not only to weaken her, but to erase her existence completely. He quickly recorded the conversation on his wrist device and left the tower before Verrill could notice. His mind was racing as he made his way back through the quiet corridors. The clone would look like the Queen but would not share her mixed blood. Once replaced, no one would ever know the truth. Ryan returned to the Queen's chamber and showed her the recording. Her face grew pale as she listened. A clone. I feared this. They have wanted to restore a pure Erickson bloodline for years. If they succeed, the peace with Earth will end. We must stop them before it is too late. Ryan nodded. They plan to act during the next council meeting. That will be tomorrow morning. I will be there to protect you. The Queen placed her hand over his. Ryan, you have already done more than any guard. But if something happens to me, promise that you will tell the people the truth. Promise that you will not let them destroy what we built. I promise, my Queen, he said firmly. The next morning, the grand hall was once again filled with light. The ministers gathered in their places, whispering among themselves. The Queen entered with grace, wearing her silver robe and crown. Ryan walked beside her, his eyes scanning the room for danger. Lord Verrill stood near the front, smiling politely, but his eyes were cold. The Queen began her speech, thanking the council for their loyalty. But as she spoke, Ryan noticed a small device under the table near Verrill's seat. It was a pulse generator, identical to the one used to make the Queen faint earlier. His heart began to race. Without waiting, he moved quietly toward the device, pretending to adjust his armor. He pressed a hidden button on his wrist that sent a signal to Taryn in the control room. Taryn's voice came through the earpiece. I see it, Ryan. It is building power again. If it activates, it will release another wave. Can you stop it from there? Ryan whispered. No, Taryn replied, but you can override it manually. Ryan reached under the table and disconnected the main link, but suddenly Verrill stood up. His voice boomed across the hall. What are you doing, human guard? All eyes turned to Rion. He held the small device in his hand and raised it so everyone could see. This was hidden under your table, Lord Verrill. It is the same kind of machine that made the Queen collapse. Gasps filled the hall. Verrill's eyes flashed with anger. You lie. That device is not mine. The Queen stood from her throne, her voice strong. Then let us see where it was connected. Taryn's voice came again through Ryan's earpiece. The signal was linked to Verrill's private network. I can prove it. Ryan played the recording he had captured from the tower. The council heard Verrill's own voice speaking about the clone and the failed attempt to remove the Queen. The hall fell silent. Even the guards stopped moving. Verrill's face turned pale. He tried to run, but Rian stepped in front of him. The two clashed briefly, but Rian was faster. He disarmed the old noble and pressed him to the ground. The ministers shouted, demanding justice. The Queen walked forward and looked down at Verrill. Her expression was calm but full of power. You betrayed your people and your Queen. You tried to destroy the peace we worked so hard to build. You will face the judgment of the council. The guards took Verrill away. The Queen turned to Ryan and gave a small nod of gratitude. Once again you have saved me, Ryan. Without you, they would have replaced me and ended everything we created. Ryan bowed. I only did my duty, my Queen. But this is not over yet. There may be others who supported his plan. The Queen looked at the gathered ministers. Then we will find them together. No one will divide our worlds again. That night, the palace was quiet. The lights of the city below shined like stars. The Queen stood on her balcony looking into the endless sky. Ryan stood beside her, silent but proud. You have done more than guard me, she said. You have guarded the truth. Rian looked out at the stars. The truth will always find a way to rise, just like the sun, my Queen. She smiled softly. Tomorrow we begin again, but this time our people will know the strength that comes when two worlds stand as one. Ryan nodded. And I will stand by your side until that day comes. The Queen raised her head high as the first light of dawn touched the palace towers. The darkness of betrayal had passed, but Ryan knew their journey was not yet over. The Empire had seen what courage and unity could do. The hidden threat had been revealed, but a greater future was waiting for them both. The night after Lord Veryl's arrest felt like the calm after a long storm. The palace glowed under soft lights, and for the first time in weeks there was peace in the air. Yet Ryan could not rest. He stood near the Queen's balcony, looking at the horizon where the twin moons of Erickson hung low in the sky. He had protected the Queen, stopped a secret plan, and uncovered the truth behind her fainting. But he knew there were still people loyal to Veryl's cause. Hatred never disappeared easily. It waited in silence, hiding behind smiles and false promises. The next morning, the Queen called an emergency meeting of the High Council. The hall was guarded by elite soldiers, and every door was sealed. The ministers entered one by one, quiet and cautious. Ryan stood behind the Queen's throne, his hand resting on the hilt of his blade, his eyes alert. The Queen rose and looked over the gathered council. Her voice was calm but strong. We have lived under lies and fear. Some among us tried to destroy what we built with Earth. They thought peace made us weak. But peace is strength. It gives us a future that war cannot. Her words echoed through the hall. Ryan saw faces soften. Even those who had doubted her seemed moved. She continued, I will not allow my people to be ruled by fear again. Today I form a new order within this palace, one that values both Erickson and human ideas. Ryan will lead it. A murmur spread through the room. Ryan felt every eye turn to him. He was shocked but bowed deeply. My Queen, I am honored. But I am only a guard. The Queen smiled gently. You are more than that. You have seen both sides of our world. You understand what unity means. That is why you must guide it. Taryn, who stood among the engineers, clapped softly, soon followed by others. The council slowly began to agree. For the first time, Ryan saw hope replacing fear. After the meeting, the Queen and Ryan walked through the palace gardens. The air smelled of rain, and the flowers glowed with faint silver light. The Queen seemed lighter, as if a weight had lifted from her heart. Rion, she said, do you think my people will ever fully accept your kind? Ryan looked at the distant towers. I believe they will, but it will take time. Fear is a deep thing. It takes patience to change it. The Queen nodded. You speak with wisdom. When I first met you, I thought you were too quiet. Now I see that silence hides strength. He smiled slightly. And when I first met you, I thought you were too proud. Now I know your pride hides kindness. She laughed softly, the sound clear in the cool air. Then perhaps we have both learned something. Their peace was short. That afternoon, Taryn came running into the garden, his face pale. There is movement in the lower sector. Some of Veryl's followers are trying to escape. They have stolen a transport ship. Ryan's calm broke. If they escape, they can regroup and plan another attack. The Queen gave a firm nod. Stop them, Ryan. Bring them back alive if you can. They must face justice. Ryan gathered a small team of loyal guards and hurried to the hangar bay. The engines roared as they approached. A sleek black ship was preparing to take off. Its wings were folded and bright flames burned under it. Seal the exits, Ryan ordered. His voice carried authority that surprised even him. The guards obeyed without question. The enemy ship lifted from the ground, but Ryan leaped onto the platform and activated a magnetic clamp on his armor. It latched onto the ship's side, pulling him upward. The wind roared in his ears as the ship climbed higher. He held on tightly and forced open a side panel. Inside, 2 rebels sat at the controls. When they saw him, one shouted, "It's the human guard." Ryan moved fast. He pressed a button on his wrist, releasing a flash charge that filled the cabin with light. The pilots covered their eyes. In that moment, he pulled the lever beside them, cutting power to the main engine. The ship shook violently, spinning as it descended. "Hold steady," Ryan shouted. He grabbed the controls, trying to level the ship. The alarm screamed, but he managed to guide it toward the open desert beyond the palace walls. The ship landed hard, throwing dust and sparks into the air. When the smoke cleared, Ryan stepped out with his weapon raised. The rebels lay stunned but alive. He called for backup, and within minutes, guards surrounded the crash site. As they were taken away, one of the rebels looked at Ryan with anger. "You think you have won, human? The Queen's weakness will destroy her." She cannot rule forever. Ryan looked at him calmly. She rules not through weakness but through strength you will never understand. The strength of trust. Back in the palace, the queen was waiting. When Ryan entered, she stood from her throne. "You did it again," she said with a smile. He bowed. "They will face justice as you wished." The queen walked closer, her voice softer now. "Every time I see you, I'm reminded that our worlds can work together. You risked your life not for power but for peace. That is what makes you different." Ryan looked at her and said quietly, "It is what makes us human." The queen smiled. "Perhaps it is what makes us all more than what we were." That evening, the queen addressed the people through the grand network. Her message was broadcast across both worlds. Ryan stood beside her as she spoke. "My people," she began, "darkness has passed through our hearts, but it has not won. We faced betrayal and fear, yet we found courage and truth. A human saved your queen not because he was ordered to, but because he believed in what we could become together. Today I ask every one of you to see beyond race, beyond planet, beyond pride. Together we rise stronger." Across the screens, humans and Erickson citizens alike watched in silence. Then came the sound of applause, growing louder, spreading from one city to another. When the speech ended, the queen turned to Ryan. "Do you hear that?" she asked. "Yes, my queen," he said. "That is the sound of a future beginning." Weeks passed. The new order grew under Ryan's guidance. Humans and Erickson worked together, sharing knowledge and skills. The palace opened new schools, new labs, and new missions to explore distant worlds. One morning, Ryan visited the queen's chamber. She was standing by the window watching the rising sun. "Your plan is working," he said. "The people are learning to trust again." The queen turned to him with a peaceful smile. "And you, Ryan, have become a symbol of that trust." He looked at her for a moment and said, "It was never about symbols. It was about doing what was right." The queen nodded. "Then you have done it well." As the sun rose higher, its light filled the room. The queen and her human guard stood side by side, watching their world awaken to a new dawn. The darkness of betrayal and fear was gone. In its place stood unity, courage, and hope. The queen whispered softly, "This is only the beginning," Ryan answered. "Then let us begin together." And as the light spread across the sky, the promise of a new age was born, written not in stone or stars, but in the bond between a human guard and an alien queen who dared to believe in peace.